So the new season of the Fallout series is out, which I find very exciting. And since I'm also a big fan of the games, I thought I could start a new project related to the Fallout universe. To be honest, at the time this video released, I haven't watched an episode of the new season yet. Therefore, this project is about the ending of the first season. So, spoiler alert, if you haven't watched the first season, you have been warned. The plan was to include the three protagonists, Maximus, Lucy and the ghoul in the scene. So I grabbed a box with all the characters, which are from the tabletop game Fallout Wasteland Warfare by Modivius. I always liked their designs since I have already painted a few Modivius miniatures in the past. The only thing that I really don't like about those minis is that most of them are made out of cast resin. The issue with resin models is that you always have to invest a lot of time cleaning every part, because they often have an oily layer on it, so paint doesn't stick that well. And there is always tons of residue to get rid of. After every model was clean and assembled, I started painting. Primed with a black base coat, which I applied with my airbrush. I struggled a bit to get clean layers of paint on the minis until I realized that the pressure was set far too low. I fixed that, of course, after realizing that. To make the job easier for the highlighting later, I used the zenithal method, which means that I dry brushed every model with a very light gray color. Like you can see here, tiny details of the model really pop out. Here you can see the finished face of Lucy. Isn't it great to show the fast progress of editing when you forget to hit the record button on the camera for the whole paint job? Just magical. For the rest, I just applied blue color tones for the wall suit, as well as yellow paint for the details on it. The leathery part are just brown tones. Next up was the model of Maximus in his Brotherhood of Steel armor. This time I wanted to paint the whole armor in the non-metallic metal paint method, which I have never done before to this extent. I only painted small parts like guns or metal details on models in the past, never a full armor though. I basically just applied different shades of grey and blended them together. Ghoul's model was very fast and easy to paint because most of him is just brown leather stuff with a little bit of blue and metal. So yeah, I was more than happy with the paint job. And this is where everything should fit in. The idea was to create something like a 3D wall painting. The background is a panorama view of New Vegas with the Lucky 38 in the middle. In front of that, I wanted to place the protagonists on a cliff. To place everything right, I used the rule of thirds technique. So I marked the horizon of the New Vegas shot on the upper third line of the frame. After that, I started sketching the whole project to see where I can place everything. As I was placing the three models, I realized that the New Vegas background was just a bit too low. So Maximus would hide half of the Lucky 38, which was not that great. So I made a note to place the background 2 centimeters higher. Our protagonists needed something majestic to pose on to show Mr. House who's boss. So I began to craft them a cliff out of XPS foam. To cut the pieces into the right size, I used this hot wire hand tool, which is such a nice little tool to have. The big piece was a little bit too short, so I glued a smaller one with wood glue to it. And now it was a perfect fit. I also used the same tool again to cut the whole XPS piece into the rough cliff shape that I had in mind. Everyone seemed to be happy with that. Up to this point, the piece did not resemble a cliff in any way, so I had to intervene a little with a knife and a hot wire tool. And of course, with the best tool ever invented, a ball of aluminium foil. When I was happy with the shape, I primed the cliff as well with my airbrush. It can be faster to spray big pieces with a primer out of a rattle can. However, the problem with XPS or styrofoam pieces like this is that they will melt because of the propellant gas that also comes out of a rattle can. So beware. While the black primer paint was drying, I painted the inside of the wooden frame with an acrylic primer paint out of a tube. After the cliff was dry, I mixed colors like burnt sienna, burnt umber and a sand color and applied that in different layers to create the desert tone of the New Vegas background. I made the top side brighter because this was the part where most of the sun was shining. To make it stand out more, I also dry brushed highlights onto the top parts of the cliff. If you are wondering what that metal box is in the background, where I get rid of the excess paint, this is my homemade dry brush palette. I'm planning to make a video tutorial about this palette, so if you are curious to make one yourself, stay tuned and hit the subscribe button, so you don't miss the tutorial. For more details, I also added small bushes. Here I added additional bushes in a different color, because the other bushes seemed a bit lonely, so I gave them a little friend. Last thing to do was to glue our heroes on top of the cliff, and this part of the project was pretty much done. Now to the final part of the project, finish the frame and combine everything together. I thought that the wooden frame looked a little bit too clean for a post-apocalyptic diorama, so I went full on crazy and destroyed it. I used knives to cut pieces off of the frame, pliers to rip whole chunks of wood out, and so on. After I thought that it looked worn out enough, I applied layers of my homemade brown wash. I almost forgot to drill a hole for hanging it on a wall, so this is me drilling a hole. Exciting, isn't it? For the final touch, I dry brushed the edges with a sand color to make it look even more worn out. Only thing left to do was to glue the background picture in place, which by the way wasn't even that easy. And of course the cliff with our 3 protagonists. And here we are finished with the Fallout 3D picture frame. And again, a very fun project done. I hope all of you had a happy new year. I know it's a little bit late for that, and I do apologize for the long delay of the new video. The last few weeks were very eventful for me, so yeah, I'm sorry. I'm trying my best to upload projects more frequently, and as always, if you want to see more projects like this, leave me a comment down below, give me a thumbs up, and even consider to subscribe. Alright, thank you for watching, have a good one, cheers.